This podcast is part of the GonnaGeek network. The opinions expressed may not represent other podcasts or affiliates of GonnaGeek. Check out more podcasts at GonnaGeek.com and get ready because geekness starts in 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to Crimson Comet, a fan podcast about the TV show dedicated to the Scarlet Speedster himself, CW's The Flash. Welcome to Episode 6 of Crimson Comet. This week, we'll be discussing The Flash Season 1, Episode 5, Plastique. I'm your host, Haley, aka Awesome Engineering Girl.
I'm John, aka Lobster.
And I'm Will, aka Rub Daddy.
If you'd like to leave feedback on the television show The Flash or on our podcast, you can find all of our contact information at crimsoncometpodcast.com. You can find us on Twitter at Crimson Podcast or on Facebook, Crimson Comet Podcast. And you can leave us a voicemail, 423-FLASH-53. That's 423-352-7453. And we also have forums available on GonnaGeek at forums.gonnageek.com, or you can search GonnaGeek, all one word, on the tapatalk app.
I gotta get that app.
You should. It's super convenient.
Super good. Well, on my iPhone, I have podcast app.
Yeah.
So that's what I use.
Right. But this is for forums.
Just to listen to us over and over again, because that's what I like to do.
Well,
in my
we're
car.
really entertaining.
Yes.
We are awesome.
And the bad jokes fall better the second time around.
I know. The puns, they work better.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I watched the newest episode of The Newsroom this week, and Olivia, what's her last name?
Munn.
Olivia Munn's character was like, I don't like puns. And then her boyfriend makes a pun joke, and she just gives him the stink eye.
Olivia Pun?
Oh, that was funny.
See what I did there? What you did there?
What you did there?
We
I saw
see.
that.
You saw that?
see.
You saw that thing?
See that?
Everyone should
Haley,
watch
I
The
got a
Newsroom. It's
question.
really good. Yeah.
I have a question. Has anyone contacted us this week? Critiqued our show? Has any questions, comments?
We did not get any critiques, but we did get some comments.
Ooh.
Our friend Andominga hit us up on Twitter, and he says, I really wish that this friend wanting to uncover more about a hero will end soon. Smallville with Chloe Clark and Arrow with Laurel Ollie on screen is so much more satisfying than the dodging, no idea who he is, stop following him.
Yeah, that's an old trope that I think all superhero shows are over with now.
Right. I think we should have outgrown it by now.
I was over that with Lois and Clark. Like, I was done at that point.
I was over it with, like, Power Rangers.
Are you talking about, like, Bulk and Skull, like, trying to figure out what they're up to at the juice bar?
Exactly. Trying to figure out what those power geeks are up to.
Did you guys see the pictures of the Pink Ranger singing in Toronto?
Yes.
I heard about that.
Oh, I still have a crush on her.
How can you have a crush on someone with a mask that you have no idea what they look like?
She had her helmet off.
Are you saying you don't like it with the helmet on?
Well, it could be anybody in there, right?
Just like Daft Punk.
We got another comment on Twitter.
Do tell.
Policeful, is it right for cops have permission to hold their badge gun during personal time? Join the discussion, cops up.
What?
So, we're getting spam. That's nice.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. From Iced Martini. I like that. At Iced Martini. Hit him up.
I'm sure he's a big fan of the show. He's going to hear this.
He will.
But someone who is a fan of the show, Star Saber, left a comment on the GonnaGeek forums, which everyone should go check out.
Please read that to me.
I think Flash wasn't on the show as often. He's talking about the Justice League show we talked about last week. I think Flash wasn't on the show as often because the series was running at the same time as Smallville, so Rosenbaum had schedule conflicts. You just haven't watched the right episode for some of the better Green Lantern constructs. Superman was particularly underpowered in these series, but he ended the series with the epic World of Cardboard speech, so it's all good. And Haley, you're not done when you finish Justice League. It continues as Justice League Unlimited, which was more of a DC Heroes anthology show. The great voice casting continues, with about half the cast of Firefly at various points, including Morena Baccarin voicing Black Canary in quite a few episodes.
Ooh.
For other episodes that relate to the Flash or his villains, I recommend Secret Society, Task Force X, I Am Legion, Flash and Substance, and The Great Brain Robbery. You've totally lost it, Grodd. I'm Lex Luthor. And I'm Charlton Heston.
Nice.
When you pry it out of my cold, dead hands.
You damn dirty ape.
And don't worry, Star Saber, I have already taken quite a big chunk out of Justice League Unlimited.
Nice.
Actually, I had to stop watching an episode to record this podcast, but it was the one where Batman and Wonder Woman and Green Lantern all go to the Wild West. It's fantastic so far.
I have a question. Do they wear cowboy hats on top of their masks?
No, when they first get up there, they beat up some ruffians and steal their clothes. and Wonder Woman puts on the cowboy boots, and she's like, these are so uncomfortable. And Batman says, you fight crime in high heels.
Thank you, Batman.
And she says, yeah, but they're high heels that fit.
So meta.
The whole show is kind of meta.
I love hearing that.
Awesome.
I don't know if you guys watch Supernatural, but they just had their 200th anniversary, and the whole thing is completely meta.
You know what? I wish there had been more singing.
Me too.
Like, I wish the play part had started a little earlier in the episode.
I guess you can buy all the songs, too, now. Somewhere you can get all the songs from the episode.
Probably iTunes.
Sure.
Speaking of iTunes, if you want to leave us a comment on iTunes, you can do that. Just search for Crimson Comet on the iTunes show, and you will find us. And some other interesting podcasts.
Like Small Scream.
Well, no, when you search Crimson Comet, there's another podcast that comes up called This Week in Spanking.
Oh!
Nice.
I'm going to have to subscribe to that.
So that's what you have to look forward to when you search for us to leave your comment on iTunes.
A podcast about spanking. A lot of this.
It's hard to take it sitting down.
Enough of you.
You're going to be cracking up when you hear that in the car later this week.
Yes, I will be.
I split my pants.
Stop eating beans.
Okay. Did we see any news items this week?
Not a whole lot of news this week, but we do have a new trailer for next week's episode.
But we haven't even talked about this week's episode.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about next week's episode.
All right, so from the trailer, we saw a couple things that happened in this episode, right? We see him running up the side of a building. We see him running across water.
We saw that conversation at the end of the episode between Iris and Barry.
Yep. And we see General Elling say, the night that lightning struck, the impossible became real.
General douchebag.
Oh, but Clancy Brown.
I know. He plays a fantastic douchebag.
He does. He's a great villain.
All right, let's talk about how great of a villain he was.
Well, he's no Kurgan.
He's no immortal, but he's still pretty good. And he's no Mr. Crab from SpongeBob.
Except he is a Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob.
He is, isn't he? Who does he play on SpongeBob?
I don't know. I don't watch SpongeBob.
Pretty sure he is.
I think you're right. That sounds right, but I'm not positive.
I'm going to tell you right now.
Into
Preach it.
The interwebs.
Preach it, Lobster.
He plays Mr. Krabs on SpongeBob SquarePants, the series.
There you have it.
Nice.
And he voices Lex Luthor in the DC animated shows.
I did know that.
He did voice acting on Gargoyles.
Of course.
Yeah, he's got a great voice.
He's got that deep, graspy voice that just exudes evil.
He also voices Odin on Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Of course he does. I need to rewatch that show. I've only seen it like 3 times all the way through.
Is that all?
That's all. It's really good, though.
Yeah, Clancy Brown, I would love to see him as a recurring villain show up again and again.
I think he's going to be.
And they're setting him up having backstory with Wells, so I think we'll get to see him show up again. And in the comics, he turns into like an Incredible Hulk type supervillain, so that would be cool, seeing him as a big CG monster with Clancy Brown doing the voiceover.
So he's kind of like Thunderbolt Ross?
Yeah, well, pretty much.
Unless Clancy Brown gets sad, and then you get the sad Hulk music. Do-do-do-do.
We can't afford the right. Stop it.
4 bars.
Speaking of bars, that's where this episode started.
Poor Barry. Can't get drunk.
I know. And I figured this out, too, when he talked about his metabolism. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, so did I. Because they have the exact same story point in Captain America.
Right.
But it was fun to see him slamming the tequila.
Right. Yes. He was just like... Which, how much does he make? Because that's not cheap, right?
Right. Well, if you get the well stuff, it's like $2 a shot.
Yeah. Shots aren't expensive.
Maybe Wells was paying for it. Wells.
Oh. Yeah, they put it on the company expense account.
Of course they did.
There you go. Even though the company's bankrupt, but oh well.
They're bankrupt, but they're still powering like a super lab, so...
Right.
Can I make a point of something? At the end, when she passed him a shot that was 500 proof, that is impossible.
Yeah, it's 250% of that liquid is alcohol, which, for the math majors out there,
is impossible.
It would have to be a solid, right?
It would have to be just vapor. I mean, there's no way. Because proof is double the percentage.
Right.
So anything that is...
So 200 proof is the highest you can possibly get. And BT Dubs, I did a project where we wanted to get 200 proof alcohol for, science, and we couldn't get it. The highest you can legally transport without like a super special license from the ATF is 190 proof.
And then what happens? Like, does it just spontaneously combust?
No, it's kept locked up in a lab, and your professor stands next to you the whole time you're doing stuff with it to make sure you don't, like, sneak some.
Well, to be fair, she is a geneticist, not a chemist.
Right. But I think what they were saying is not that it is 500 proof alcohol, but that it has the effect that 500 proof alcohol would have, because it's some synthetic component.
So it's synthahol. So now it's
Exactly.
Star Trek.
It is green.
It is green. What is it? It is green.
What happens if he drinks the prune juice? That's when the brown streak comes.
And we're back.
You thought we were going to rise
right,
above
we're
it.
not gonna know.
No,
We're
you're
not
listening
above
to
it.
the wrong show.
This will not be the last poop joke we make.
There are a lot of Flash podcasts out there you can listen to. If you don't want to hear poop jokes, this is not one of them. So then they're like, oh, there's a disaster, we gotta go. And everybody in the bar
everybody's
makes
like,
the
oh,
lame
yep,
excuse.
Uh-huh. Oh, I've got a
Gotta
headache. Yeah, sure.
I have a thing.
I have a thing, I gotta go. But if you're the last person leaving, you don't have to make the lame excuse. You can just be like, oh, I guess I'll go too.
Exactly.
Well, Iris wants to leave because she wants to track down the streak. The cop boyfriend has to leave.
Yeah, he doesn't have to make a lame excuse. He's just like, I'm a cop, I gotta go.
I gotta go.
Yeah,
and then everybody else is like, yeah, we'll just take off. Yeah, whatever.
Oh, I've got some important spices to organize.
I have to say, one of the things I like about this show, which Arrow doesn't really seem to do as much, is we've seen them go to bar trivia. We've seen them just hang out, doing shots. These people have social lives. Nobody in Arrow really has a social life.
Well, these people are younger than the people in Arrow. Like these, I get the feeling that...
Well, no. The first season of Arrow, she ran a bar. The sister... Well, that
Right.
that
It was her
fucking killed me.
job. Yeah.
Well, it was her job. She was 16 years old, and she
Sure.
owned the nightclub. I mean, I guess she just quit school and went down and owned the nightclub and did that because her
Well,
parents
after she had the drug overdose, right? Then she got the nightclub. They thought that was
Right.
cool.
Yeah, that always works out well.
Oh, you're a recovering alcoholic? Okay, we're going to put you in charge of a
Yeah,
bar.
exactly.
Good plan.
Not part of the 12-step program. Guarantee you that. But yeah, no, in Arrow, they had the nightclub, but you never, ever saw anyone actually take a drink.
Right. They're not really having a good time. This show, it seems they're willing to cut loose, and even at the end of the episode, they go back and they're having a good time again.
Well, that's because they've all got a lot less angst.
Exactly.
Well,
Except for Barry.
Well, Barry, Caitlin has angst with her dead
Well, they
fiancé,
all have
blah,
angst,
blah,
but they
blah.
don't focus.
It doesn't define who they are.
Right.
Their entire lives aren't based on their angst, you know? I mean, they're not always walking around with droopy shoulders. They're living their lives.
They're not Batmaning
Which
it up.
I did enjoy that Caitlin wasn't so torn up about her dead fiancé that she didn't notice.
I thought Caitlin
how
was a
hot.
lot better in this episode.
She commented on how hot Cop was.
Right. She's like, I mean, as a geneticist, what? He's hot.
I don't think so.
He is. Detective Pretty Boy, kind of hot.
Speaking of hot, let's talk about the main guest of the episode, the titular Plastique.
Plastique. I like that name. Got it on first try.
Yeah.
I know. Good job, Cisco.
Good job, Cisco. Hey, really quick, let's talk about Cisco's t-shirts. Another Inspector Spacetime.
Yep. And in the bar, he had an Adventure Time shirt on.
Yes, he did.
You know, they're not going to do this, but I think it would be hilarious if he had a Coulson Lives t-shirt.
Oh, there's no way, because that's Marvel.
I know. There's absolutely no way, but it would be perfect.
Can we, start sending them t-shirts for him to wear? That would be hysterical.
Well, and I wonder if we'll see I Believe in the Arrow type stuff or things like that show up, like if they keep doing the cross-play between the shows.
You know what? I would love to be the person whose job it is to find geeky t-shirts for Cisco to wear every week. I don't want to do the rest of the costuming, just that little small part
Probably
of
the
it.
same person they have finding Sheldon's t-shirts on Big Bang Theory.
That, I'm pretty sure they just hit the random t-shirt day on T-Fury.
It's true.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, this is what the geeks are into these days.
I like that they're going a little bit more obscure with Cisco's shirts. There's stuff that's recognizable pop culture wise, but unless you're really into it, you're probably not going to pick up on it.
Yeah, there have been several times where I'm like, I have no idea what this shirt is.
The shirt he had on at the end that was the cat head on Voltron's body or something. I couldn't figure out what that was, but that's just what it looked like. That's how I'm going to describe it.
Okay, so they leave the bar and they get to the building, and Barry runs up the side of a building, which is a new skill for him.
First, he suggests just stacking a bunch of mattresses up, which I thought was a brilliant solution. He could totally do that.
Barry, this isn't a Roadrunner cartoon.
He's Wile E. Coyote. Boom.
No, he's the
Roadrunner. He's the
Roadrunner.
Roadrunner.
Yeah, it's the perfect joke, because he is the Roadrunner. And then that is clearly what gave him the idea to run up the side of the building. He's like, I've seen Roadrunner cartoons. I know what to do next. And then Cisco does the math, but apparently Cisco is kind of slow at math, because then Caitlin's just like, just run really fast.
When he's drunk, he's slow at math.
But, still, the physics behind
Don't drink and derive.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it does. You just have to go faster than the velocity created by the effect of gravity on you.
Says the engineer, thank you, I stand corrected.
See, the problem was he was trying to use English standard units and metric units at the same time. I think that's what was confusing him.
See, you should have been on the team.
I should have. I am available, guys, if you need another sidekick for Team Flash.
You should totally try out for Team Flash.
I promise not to build any death rays to defeat our hero.
But you will bring as many cool t-shirts as you possibly can.
Right, I've got my own supply, so we're good to go. So Barry saves the window washer, who is working in the middle of the night to wash the windows.
Which happened in New York this week. Did you see that?
I know, isn't that weird?
The new building, the new World Trade Center.
On the new World Trade Center, yeah.
And it was really hard for them to rescue the window washers because the windows are impact and explosion resistant. So they had to spend a lot of time trying to break through them to actually get to the people.
They had to completely remove it.
Yeah, they had to break through 3 layers of glass. It was pretty intense.
And the people had hypothermia because I guess up that high it gets pretty cold.
Go figure.
But our friend Soleil was able to take a picture of it because his new office is right across the street from there.
That's cool.
Cool.
Cool, but I'm glad the window washers are safe.
Yeah.
We want all our window washers to be as safe as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And in this episode, Barry totally did it by running up the side of a building.
And then running into Iris.
Oh, hi, Iris.
Using his vibration powers.
I know, he vibrated his face. But yet, he still smiled at her.
I know.
And she still couldn't figure out who he was under the Scorpio mask.
She was a little drunk.
She had been doing shots.
Yep.
And it was dark.
I think she's going to get it figured out before the end of the season.
Me too.
I think it'll take 1 or 2 episodes because he's really close to telling her. And her dad wants him to tell her, didn't he? No, he wants... I'm confused.
Her dad doesn't want him to tell her because he thinks it'll put her in danger. But at this point, she's already in danger because she's already going to all the things.
He wants him to tell Iris that he loves her.
That he loves her, right?
Yeah. Because he knows.
Joe
is very perceptive. And once again, Joe steals the show in this episode. I loved him cracking up at Barry's voice and
it was kind of funny.
That interplay. Yeah.
It's exactly how you react to someone doing that to their voice.
Yep.
Yeah. He doesn't need a voice modulator like Oliver does.
Right, he could just do it on his own and then just dart around. As long as he's backlit and no one can really see his face, he's cool. He doesn't need a hood.
Which is funny because I was thinking about that earlier in the episode. I'm like, oh, maybe he'll just shift his voice up to be really high by changing the frequency he's using.
Hi, Iris. Hi, I'm
or really low by changing the frequency, but what they did instead was better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think Mickey Mouse Flash would work so well.
No. Would not be taken seriously.
Well, I said he could go super low, too.
Can you go?
Hello. Can you go?
Well, he uses the vibration effect again, which, we're learning that he can vibrate almost every part of his body, so...
Ladies.
Just saying.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying.
Well, speaking of ladies, he ends up totally naked in this episode, except for those stupid boxers.
He had boxer shorts on, which are the... It's the only thing that didn't blow up.
Oh, because they weren't part of the same material as the suit.
Right.
It's synthetic tripolymer. Never mind.
But it's a good thing they have 2 other suits. Now, why?
Yeah, but he liked that one.
My favorite.
Yeah, I was expecting to see
Which I thought they would put the white logo on, but I guess not. They're sticking with the red logo on the chest.
Right, I was expecting it to be a little different, though.
Me too.
It's just exactly the same one.
You're this one has an upgrade. It's waterproof, and then that pays off later.
But nope, same one.
You don't want to wear waterproof clothes. You're going to, especially him. He's going to sweat like a fiend.
Just doesn't breathe.
Oh, of course not. And when he takes that suit off, it is going to stank.
I wonder if it's like the still suits in Dune and it's recycling the water so he doesn't get dehydrated while he's being all flashy.
There's a little straw he can just drink out of.
It's kind of gross when you think about it.
The water of life. The worms. The spice.
You just peed in the suit.
Father, the sleeper has awakened.
Oh, there's a filter in there. You could drink that water.
And he was trained by Jean-Luc Picard.
Totally.
Does that man never age?
No.
No, he doesn't.
He looks exactly the same now as he looked when he did, wait for it, Excalibur, which was before Dune.
The thing is, he started off looking kind of old for his age, but then he just stopped aging there.
Right.
So he eternally looks like he's 50.
Okay, here's a question. Haley, have you ever seen either Dune or Excalibur?
I have seen the sci-fi miniseries Dune.
Boo.
I have not seen the Lynch movie.
Oh, boo. And the movie Excalibur is one of the most over-the-top fantasy films, or quote-unquote fantasy, because it's about King Arthur. But it's still fantastic. I loved it.
Well, I do love a good fantasy movie, so I might have to watch that one. Oh, let me add it to the list.
Oh, my God. Okay, I just have to say that King Arthur and his knights, their armor is made out of polished chrome.
Yeah, it's like super shiny. It's like the whole movie is like, I can't see, you're blinding me.
I know. And if you stop and go frame by frame, you can see the crew in the reflection of the armor. And here's a quick, real funny story about that. When you watch Excalibur, it sounds really different and super crisp and clear than anything else you've ever seen. And the reason is when they shot that film, they screwed up all the audio.
So they had to do ADR for everything?
For the entire movie had to be ADR'd.
Maybe it's because the flashy chrome armor was all clinky.
Everything sounded tinny.
It's funny. I was watching a Farscape commentary and they were like, yeah, season 2, we put everybody in leather and we had to ADR all the dialogue because it was just like leather squelching everywhere.
Farting sounds. All right, let's talk about Plastique. I really want to dissect her character a little bit because I thought she was a fantastic...
That's what Eiling wants to do, is dissect her character.
Dissect her. Just cut her open and see how she works. But I thought she was a really interesting take on the whole wounded warrior type character and the sort of she's the first metahuman that isn't straight up evil, that doesn't want to destroy the city. They keep mentioning that. Well, besides Barry.
Right. I like that her power is blowing things up and how they're she can't be part of the superhero teams. All she does is blow things up. And it's like some powers aren't for superheroes.
Right.
It's like your power kind of defines what role you're going to have to play. If you blow things up, you have to be a villain.
Yeah, and if you turn into fart gas, you have to be a villain too, right?
Exactly.
Well, nobody wants to be around you. It's always like, oh man, it's him, yeah.
Oh, it's Fart Guy again. God.
Again.
But she doesn't explode. It's just the residue from her skin makes things explode.
Right.
In kind of a weird purpley glow, too.
Well, yeah, because otherwise it's not going to stand out on his red suit.
Right. All right. So she's kind of half Gambit, half Jubilee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Different franchise. Shh.
Oh, wait. Yeah, totally. But she is a character. Speaking of It's All Connected, she is a character from the comics. And her character is kind of like an enemy of Firestorm, who is Ronnie Raymond, played by Robbie Amell on The Flash, who they're kind of setting him up to be. And she marries Captain Atom, Ray Palmer, who is played by Brandon Routh on Arrow. So they're if they follow through with her character, if she's not dead, Plastique lives.
Nobody's ever dead.
Right.
If she comes back, they could tie her in. She could be a bridge between the shows.
Yeah. Funny you should mention Captain Atom, because like I said, I've been watching a lot of Justice League lately. There's an episode where all the heroes are fighting, and Captain Atom, one of his abilities is to shrink down really small, and Wonder Woman stores him in her cleavage while she fights bad guys.
That's amazing.
Seriously, we're going to be watching some more of this show and talking about it.
I can't wait.
Because it's just too perfect not to.
It sounds like he's probably a better character than what Marvel is going to release soon as Ant-Man.
That movie is probably going to be the worst Marvel movie we've ever seen.
Probably. Now watch, it's going to be the best.
It might be great, but just what I'm hearing so far does not sound great.
It's not promising.
Well, any film that Edgar Wright leaves over creative differences, I have to worry about. Because to me, Edgar Wright can do no wrong.
Well, he's kind of perfect.
See what I did there? See what I did there?
What you did there?
It's
to see right and wrong.
Right and wrong.
Are antonyms.
W-R.
Right.
Get it?
And right and right are homonyms.
Right.
I got it.
Right,
yeah.
Correct. I'm kind of worried. Not worried because I never really, other than Edgar Wright being involved in it, I never really put much stock in the Ant-Man movie ever happening at all because it was in development hell for so long.
Okay, steering back to DC.
I really like the look of Betsy and Susie in this episode. They went with the purple, which was her costume color in the comics. And I like that she had bright red hair, which is something that doesn't turn up a lot in these CW shows.
No, you don't see a lot of gingers.
Everybody's either...
Well, yeah, because they tend to try and make all their shows dark and depressing, and ginger doesn't really pop.
You're either
Gingers
that,
are
or
happy.
you're either dark-haired, or you're bleach blonde.
Yep.
Like Felicity and Sarah.
Yep.
Oh, Sarah's hair is so blonde.
Well, the wig or her actual hair.
Well, the wig. They
right.
put such a yellow wig on her. It's ridiculous.
put such a yellow wig.
Well, because she's a canary.
I get it.
That's how no one could recognize her. It was just the cleavage distracted them. They never actually looked at her face.
Right, they never saw her face. She didn't even have to wear a mask.
Yep.
Nobody expects the power of the cleavage.
All right, steering it back. But yeah, I would be really sad if she stays dead, because I thought she was a great character. And I think there is something that she can do, because they've already set her up as, she wants to help people. That's why she became a soldier in the first place. She got steered wrong by Wells
because
in this
he's
episode.
An evil genius.
Is he evil or is he good?
I don't know, but I don't trust him.
I've got a theory, and I'll get to that when we get to the end of the episode.
Theory.
But
I think he might be good. I think they're making us feel like he's evil, but I think in the end he's going to end up being good.
I think he's going to be one of those guys where he's big picture good, but he's willing to do anything to get to where he thinks things should be.
Or, maybe we're just too used to having people who are good and or evil. Why can't we just have someone who's ambiguous? Always.
Someone who's just kind of a dick.
He's evil.
Oh, but when Joe walks into Star Labs and it's like, detective, doctor. It's like, whoa, little icy there, guys.
Quit hosing down the floor. Come on.
Yeah, he's going to spin out.
So this show has done a good job so far dodging around the secret identity trope. Like, you can't get too close to me because you'll put yourself in danger.
I can't tell her how I really feel because it'll make her life more dangerous.
So this show has dodged this trope, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this episode full on went for it, which I was like, really? You really have to go to you can't get close to me and know my secret because you will be put in danger.
I have to push her away because otherwise I'll risk her life.
I just feel like we've kind of moved past that in superhero storytelling, because most of the superheroes are quote unquote out, like Iron Man.
Well, you know what? Except they
America.
aren't mostly out. It's just a Marvel thing that they did in the movies. Because otherwise, that has not been the case.
Well, DC, they're all in the closet, but
yeah,
they're closeted superheroes.
But I feel like Flash, this show in particular, has gone more back to its comic book roots than anything else we've seen in a long time.
It's the only show on TV where you have someone in a costume being a hero.
Yeah.
Even Arrow, it's just a hood.
Arrow's getting closer to that, but still they're not super powered, really.
Well, that's because he finally has a cowl now that goes over his shoulders, but for the longest time it was basically a hoodie.
Yeah, and he's got a mask now, too.
Now he's got a mask. And they still haven't... What season are we in? Arrow.
3.
They still haven't named him... now because
they just
of the
call
Flash,
him the Arrow.
They just call him the Arrow, but within Sterling City...
He was the hood.
He was the hood for the longest time, and now...
Well, he was the vigilante, then the hood.
And now they're kind of referring to him as the Arrow.
But now that they have other hooded Arrow people, he's going to be the Green Arrow, and then we'll have the Red Arrow.
Well, I thought they would do that when Merlin was running around as the guy in the black suit to distinguish the two. Like, we've got the Black Arrow and we've got the Green Arrow. But they didn't do that then.
No, but still, Sterling City doesn't refer to him as Arrow at all. Just the people in the know.
No, I think Lance did at the beginning of the season when they were like, we're going to thank him and we're not going to actively pursue him anymore. And they called him the Arrow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But that's because it's an origin show. Even more so than Flash is, where Flash is embracing it almost right from the beginning. Arrow is much more like a series-long origin for the Green Arrow. And so he started out as almost an assassin, right? He was crossing names off his list, and then he evolved into more of a hero, and he's not killing, and then he's finding more of that and growing allies and stuff like that. So
actually, it's 2 origin stories. We saw him go from playboy to assassin, and then assassin to hero.
Right. So it's all about how he eventually does become the Green Arrow that we know from the sort of classic comic book stories, but he's not there yet. So he's just the Arrow.
Have you guys seen the most recent episode of Arrow?
No.
Yeah.
This week.
3 episodes. I'm 3 episodes behind.
Yeah, the last one I watched was The Secret Origin of Felicity Smoke.
Okay, they give Roy a name in this one.
Oh, they do?
Yep.
He's supposed to be Arsenal. Do they?
Yes.
Okay, they go with that?
Well, yeah, there are several different names he's used.
Speedy.
In the comics. Yeah, Speedy, and I think there was another one too. But anyways, Arsenal is the name that Oliver gives him.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Got it right on the first try.
I am so far behind I'm behind on Arrow, and I'm behind on there's something else, and all of a sudden I realize, Gotham.
You're behind on the Spanking podcast, right, too?
Spanking podcast, I'm behind
on.
No,
that one is all caught up on.
We're all caught up on that one. Are you kidding me?
I know, it's like all the TV shows came back, and it's like I'm barely keeping up on my TV shows. I'm falling behind on my podcast, and I haven't read anything in a week.
I'm falling behind on shows even for my own podcast.
That's all right, because the hiatus will come up and then we'll catch up.
Thank God.
Okay, so I feel like in Flash, like every episode, he's kind of building on his abilities. You know, we got the episode where he learned to move his face so people can't recognize him.
Yep.
This episode, he learns he can run up buildings and run on water
Disguise
and control his voice.
Yep.
Yeah. So every episode, he's like building on his powers, which is awesome because that's what a lot of early issues of comic books are like. Every single issue, they get more powerful.
Well, yeah,
and then you end up with the Superman
you
problem.
discover what you can do by testing your limits. And I feel like that's kind of where they were going with Plastique. Like they wanted to sort of test to see if she could control her powers. And I think that'll be a big thing they work into the show with the metahumans is some of them aren't necessarily going to be like dangerous in terms of like their intent, but just because they can't control their powers. They're dangerous.
It's not that they're malicious intent, but they are dangerous just because they don't have any control.
Right.
And that's something that Heroes explored to a large extent was sort of if you have these special abilities, you might not necessarily mean to become a nuclear bomb that blows up half of New York, but
these things happen.
But these things happen. Yeah, we understand.
We're going to get Wells School for Gifted Youngsters.
I actually really want to see that. And they're calling it the Pipeline now, which is the underground
where they're
prison.
Imprisoning the bad guys.
So if they can start maybe even working with some of them and saying, look, you have these abilities, we can take care of you so you don't have to rob banks for a living. Do you want to learn how to use your powers and join the team?
Yeah. And you know the best part of a metahuman prison is the metahuman prison break that's got to be coming by the end of the season.
Yep.
Does anybody not know that that's what's going to happen? Because that's totally what's going to happen.
I think it's going to be like Ghostbusters 2, where the general is going to come and shut it down and be like, okay, we're turning off your power. They're like, no, don't turn off the power. And then everybody gets loose.
Well, don't forget Wentworth Miller is still around. So if you want Prison Break, that's
Prison Break.
Well, speaking of Prison Break, the other guy from Prison Break is showing up later this season.
Oh, that's right. The guy who plays brother.
Yeah. So, yeah, totally going to be a Prison Break.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And then they could call in Team Arrow to come help clean up and bring in everybody from the other show.
Yeah, well, we know that Robbie Amell's character becomes Firestorm. I wonder if him reconstituting or whatever is going to like damage the pipeline, and that's what's going to cause the prison break.
Dr. Manhattan style.
Yeah.
He's just going to show up.
Red and naked.
Yep, bright red and naked. That would be awesome.
And Caitlin's going to be like, I recognize that cardiovascular system.
Right. She'll recognize the blood flow, but not the cardiovascular system.
Oh.
Whoa.
Watch out.
Where do you go from there?
Where do you go? I think we talk about the reveal at the end of the episode.
Oh, wait. No. I lost my mother effing mind when I saw that happen.
Now, were you prepared in any way? Do you think that maybe the last episode that we recorded where we talked about the cartoon show maybe prepared you?
You know what? I should have seen it coming when they were talking about that their previous experiments were mind control. Right. I should have been like, oh, they're talking about Grodd.
Yeah,
but I totally forgot. Telepathy. Yeah.
No, I was watching that with somebody who'd never seen the show before, and all of a sudden the camera pans down, and you see Grodd, and oh my God, it's Grodd! And it was, who's Grodd? I'm like,
you don't know who Grodd is? Who doesn't know who Grodd is?
I know.
Do your homework. Clean your room.
Clean your room.
Stop telling me what to do, guys.
Yeah, there was already the tease in the pilot, which was a blink and you miss it thing. But then they're like, oh, here's a gorilla in a cage, and the name tag says Grodd.
I can't wait to see how they're going to make that work.
You know, we just watched that episode with Grodd in it, and then there was the scientist in that who had a crush on Grodd, which was weird and creepy.
Yep.
Do you think it's the same thing with Wells?
All right, you want to hear my theory?
I do.
Wells is Grodd.
I like that theory a lot.
Okay, so
it actually makes sense.
Grodd can control people's minds. He possesses access to sort of futuristic technology. We saw that in the cartoon, right? Because Gorilla City is super advanced. He has been using his telepathy to control Wells, and he is making Wells do what he wants him to do. And that explains why sometimes Wells can walk and sometimes he can't, because Grodd is telling him that he's crippled and has to stay in the wheelchair. But when Grodd needs him to get up and do something, he can command him to get up and move.
I kind of buy that a little bit. I do like it because that way we don't have to see an ape talking.
Yeah, he could just be using these human puppets.
And
Right.
it sets up Grodd as the big bad for the season, if he's the one pulling the strings.
Of course, they could just hire Andy Serkis to play Grodd.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Please. That would be amazing.
And then we find out that Grodd was responsible for Planet of the Apes. And it's all connected.
That would be awesome. Like, this whole show was just a prequel for Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Exactly.
Now, I'm shooting out this theory. I don't necessarily think that it's going to prove out to be 100% accurate because it leaves a couple things unexplained, like why does the futuristic room exist? Why is he so intent on creating and protecting the Flash? Like, why would he create his greatest enemy? But I don't know. It's cool. It's a cool thought.
Yeah. Okay, there were a few scenes earlier in the episode where people were asking Barry, why are you doing this? Or if you could give up your powers, would you? And Barry was like, I like using my powers to help people. So Barry, more than I think anyone we've seen in recent history, really likes being a superhero.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody always treats it like a curse.
Like, it's a burden that they have to bear because,
Like,
with great power comes great responsibility.
I just wish I could be normal and have a normal life. Well, Barry's
No, you
normal life
don't.
was boring. Barry's normal life was boring, and he wanted to help people, and he was not able to do it.
He was helping people in the way that he could by being a forensic scientist.
But now he could be active about it.
Yeah.
Right. Now he can help people before terrible things happen.
Yeah, I like that spin on the story, too, because, again, even with Arrow, there's almost like a burden to it. He's not the Arrow because he wants to be the Arrow. He's the Arrow because his city needs him. And
Right. You have failed this city.
Barry's not like, oh, this city needs me. He's like, oh, I like doing this. I want to do this and help people. And even if there weren't meta-humans and supervillains showing up in his city, he would still be going around saving window washers and saving people from muggers and pulling people out of house fires and stuff. That's who he is. That's what he wants to do.
Exactly.
It's generally a much lighter show, more fun show. Much more fun to watch him do what he does, and he enjoys it.
Yeah. And that's always kind of the thing with the Flash as a hero is he's having fun in being a hero. I mean, in the cartoon, he was like almost slapstick. But in sort of like the comics and the way they're portraying him here, he really enjoys using his powers and pushing himself to the limit.
Yeah. I don't think the Arrow ever has fun.
When was the last time you saw him smile? Like, actually smile and have a good time.
Yeah.
As the Arrow, never. Like, sometimes we'll see Oliver smile, but never the Arrow.
But usually when Oliver's smiling and having a good time, it's because he's quote,
playing a part.
He's playing a part.
Trying to cheer somebody
He's
else
Bruce
up.
Wayning it up.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's having a party. The chicks are all over. He's like, hey, look at me. I'm a hot bachelor. But he's acting.
Yeah.
Or he's doing the thing where his face is smiling, but his eyes are sad.
Right.
Do-do-do-do.
All right, that's 3 bars. We can't do any more.
Oh, except for that scene at the end of that one episode where him and Thea were just hanging out in her apartment.
Yeah, which when he's cheering somebody up or he's around his friends, I guess, his family, he can be cheerful. But, I mean, also through the course of the show, he's seen his girlfriend die, his best friend die, both his parents die, pretty much everyone.
Yeah, he's had a rough couple of years.
Yeah, it's been rough for him. So we forgive him for not being as cheerful. Flash, just his mom's dead and his dad's in prison. It's not quite so bad.
Yeah, he's got it easy.
Yeah.
Like, his dad's in prison, but he's got this cool surrogate dad and the hot, not quite a sister.
Yeah.
Which is kind of creepy if you think about it.
I know. I've been thinking it since the first episode. I'm like, this girl has been your sister since you were 10 years old.
Do you think they could get away with it if she wasn't black?
I think it would be even more disturbing because then people would be like, oh, is she your real sister?
She's actually your sister. It's like, well, at least they can sort of like make the distinction. I mean, I think Iris is gorgeous, but
she is. But no, it's like, it's still, they do this in shows all the time. They're like, oh, we've been best friends since we were real little kids. You're like a brother to me. You're like a sister to me. And then it becomes a romantic relationship. And it's just kind of squicky.
Or the opposite, like in Star Wars.
Was it Clueless? Clueless that did that?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Clueless did that.
But that one wasn't as disturbing because I got the sense that like their parents got married when he was a teenager and then he went off to college and they never really saw each other.
Yeah.
Wasn't that Paul Rudd?
Yes,
it was Paul
and he
Rudd.
looks exactly the same as he did
himself, who also does not age.
Does not age at all. Actually looks better now than he did back then. He was kind of squishy back then and now he's all worked out.
All right. Favorite moments from this episode?
I know how to perform a lobotomy. See, I feel like Cisco wasn't as good in this episode as he has been, but Caitlin really stepped up.
Cisco kind of like skeeved me out with his pervy.
But no one that looks like you.
Yeah, like that was just a little pervy, and I wanted more. Like they added depth to his character last week with he's the one who created the cold gun, and I wanted fallout from that. Maybe not him hanging out at the bar with them. I mean, I didn't
like
even
there's
think
still being some tension from what happened.
I didn't even think he was old enough to drink, but whatever.
Well, that's my favorite part is all the shots.
Yeah.
500 proof, there's no way that could happen. We already said that.
Right.
But I did love the shots. Boom, 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 boom.
Hey.
I'm like, I remember college years.
Drink, you forget. It happens.
True.
But yeah, again, Caitlin, they're adding some depth to her. I wanted maybe just a little bit of consequence from Cisco last week, but we didn't quite get it. Everything's hunky-dory. They're friends.
You know, this was a pretty standalone episode. I wonder if it's one of those stories where they didn't know exactly where it was going to fall when they aired the episodes. So they didn't necessarily know it was going to come right after the one where he made the thing that could kill Barry.
No, it felt pretty well connected because just kind of like the way it tied in, because they had the reference to Iris dating Hot Cop and her dad knew.
Right. The Iris part of the story is continued from the previous episode, but the big villain episode and the lab team and everything, that part is not really a continuation of anything that came before.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think part of it was just introducing Plastique and seeing how that all turned out. And I think that was maybe my favorite line in the episode was when she had the boomerang. And they were having her throw different things, and they're like, oh, you didn't think this through, did you? It's the boomerang.
It'll be fine, because no one has ever been able to throw a boomerang and get it to come back.
Except on Sherlock.
Well, that's cheating.
Or if you're an Aussie.
No, I don't think even they can do it. I think they just invented it, and we're like, yeah, we throw this thing and it comes back to us, and just to see the dumb Americans try.
Yep.
True.
So that would have been a bad idea to throw the exploding boomerang. It comes back, you know? What's our theory on how Plastique survives? Because I think she does. Do you think it's dropping her in the water is able to kind of diffuse it so it like washes off and doesn't make her explode? I think she's probably immune to her own power anyway.
Well, probably, but let's see. She got shot in the chest, right?
So
Yeah, but she could recover.
Right. So I think maybe what happened was he thought she died, and then that's what detonated her. But I think it's just that she had such a massive trauma that it triggered like a self-defense exploding thing.
Like she regenerated?
Yeah, the bullet exploded inside her or out of her, and she just heals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
The energy created from exploding was channeled into healing her sciencey wyancy.
Yeah. And she already had been kind of a victim of like a traumatic injury, and that's when she was exposed, and she healed from that.
Well, because, what happened in the past was something that should have killed her was incorporated into her and became part of her power.
Oh, so maybe now she'll be able to shoot exploding bullets from her hand.
Maybe.
That would be cool. Finger gun, pew, pew, pew.
You can't do that to people anymore. Oh, shit, I killed them.
Oh, sorry, I was just kidding.
Sorry.
My bad.
Sorry about that.
No more cowboys and Indians on the playground.
This was a good episode. I don't think it quite matched the last couple. But I'm interested to see the elements that they introduce, certainly, if we see them recur. Like, obviously, Grodd is going to come back. If we see Elling continue to play a role, if we see Plastique show up again, I'll be happy. And now Iris is definitely going after the streak.
Right. So I feel like what's going to happen is she's going to catch him on the next crime scene, and she's going to be like, the streak, why do you do this? And he's going to be like, call me the Flash. And that's how he's going to officially get his name out there.
Why?
There
What's
you
the
go.
next episode called?
The next episode is called The Flash is Born.
Oh, no way.
Boom.
Shut up.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Oh, well, boom goes Plastique.
Too soon, bro. Too soon.
Oh.
Oh, so they did the classic line that every TV show has done in the history of ever. Must be Tuesday in Central City.
Right. Exploding people, fart power, talking gorillas. Must be Tuesday.
Yep.
Must be Tuesday. It happened.
Which is a classic TV show joke where they say must be whatever day the show airs.
Where is Central City? Because it looked like they had a bay. Like they were running out into... Is it supposed to be Chicago?
That's what I thought, but Chicago does not have a bay.
No,
Well,
it's
I
a
mean, it
giant
has-
lake.
Right.
It's close to water, but
I wonder if it's supposed to be like
it looked
a
like
central coastal city.
No, it looked
No,
like San Francisco to me, but...
No, not enough hills. No, Central City looks really flat. And because it's Central City, it's supposed to be located in the center of the country.
I mean, I guess...
Right.
it
I mean,
looked
I'd
like-
always seen the river, going through the town. I was like, oh, it's just like St. Louis or Chicago, and it's on the Mississippi River.
Right.
It looked like Vancouver, but oh well.
Well, yeah, right.
Well,
it always
go
looks.
figure.
Everything looks like Vancouver.
So
I feel like there
wonder
has
if-
to be a DC map out there.
Well,
So-
in I meant to point this out last week when we were watching the animated show, but they showed Central City on the map, and it looked like kind of near where Chicago was. Did I mention this last week?
I don't know.
I feel like I typed it in the show notes, but I don't know if I said it out
might not
loud.
have brought it up.
Yeah, but in that episode, I think it was the second one, they show the two signals. The one is Gorilla City in Africa, and then the other one is supposed to be Central City, and it looked like smack dab in the middle of the country, almost where like Chicago or Detroit might be.
Exactly. I think it's in Michigan, so if you hold up your hand, it's right where your thumb meets your hand. That's where it's supposed to be. But it was by a giant body of water.
Central City, Missouri is located across the river from Keystone City, Kansas. It was founded in the 19th century and became an important stop for cattle drives. It began to see tremendous growth after the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, becoming the first major hub west of Chicago, from DCWikia.com. So there you go, Central City, Missouri.
So it looks like it's Kansas City then. Okay, I'm looking at a map now. DC superhero cities. Yeah, to me it looks like Central City and Keystone City are supposed to be like the two halves of Kansas City, straddling the Kansas and Missouri border. But there is not a bay in Kansas City.
They mention Englewood on the show, which is part of Central City in the comics. Englewood, Danville, Chubbuck, Brookfield Heights, Leawood, Mounds View. These are all areas of the city in the comics.
Oh, this map I linked to, it's got the cities for all the major heroes, the populations, and the annual crimes.
Right on.
Okay, do you guys have any more points?
Nothing but bullets.
We get a new Flash next week. The Flash is born.
The Flash is born. Oh.
What are you guys looking forward to seeing in that episode?
Birth.
Yeah, after birth, placenta. It's probably going to be real like gooey, and I'm looking forward to just having people call him the Flash instead of the Streak.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
I mean, when they start calling him the Flash, I promise to stop making Brown Streak jokes.
No, you don't, liar.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
It's never going to happen. Because, in Arrow, they really dragged out the calling him Arrow thing for way too long, I feel like.
3 seasons.
Yeah. Well, last season, they kind of started calling him the Arrow.
Well, he's like, I need a new name, and he just looks at the Arrow, and then they go to, like, the Stinger, or the whatever opening title.
Oh, and by the way, that morph they have on that show where he goes from Oliver into the Arrow with the mask, and it morphs, it's really bad.
It is so bad.
Yeah. They need to fix that.
They totally do.
But we're not talking about the Arrow, we're talking about the Flash.
And I've got to say, I've been really happy with the special effects on the Flash. I like that they're incorporating the lightning more and more to like how he moves. And
I agree.
Right, and I feel like he's getting faster every episode too.
Well, he is, because he had to go 600 and something miles per hour just to run on the water.
Yeah.
And
okay, did we talk about him running on the water yet? I don't think we
kind of talked around it.
I think the badass moment that we're going to get is him breaking the sound barrier and like creating an actual sonic boom. Like that's going to be like, boo, like, awesome.
That'll be very cool, but the walking on water kind of bugged me.
It might not happen this season, but I think what we're going to get is him like running really fast and then all of a sudden he's like popped ahead a second in time or something like that.
Ooh.
And they're going to be like, what'd you do? How did you do that?
Yeah.
And then he's going to start figuring things out.
I don't know. Maybe that'll be like a season 2 plot line. Like,
right. Like I said, I don't think it's going to happen this season, but I think it's going to happen.
Because eventually it's going to be like he can't run too fast because he'll go out of existence somehow. Like relativity will happen and everyone will be older or something. But I think like just seeing him push the limits of his power is really, really cool to watch.
Yeah.
And next week, The Flash is born.
Yay.
All right. Well, this has been Crimson Comet, episode 6. Join us next week as we discuss The Flash, season 1, episode 6, The Flash is Born. Until then, I'm Haley.
I'm Lobster.
I'm Rum Daddy.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.
Thanks for listening. If you want to leave us feedback, you can find all of our contact information at crimsoncometpodcast.com. Find us on Twitter at Crimson Podcast or Facebook at facebook.com/Crimson Comet Podcast. Leave us a voicemail at 423-FLASH53. That's 423-352-7453. The opinions heard on this podcast are those of the individual host and do not represent GonnaGeek. The podcast is not affiliated with DC Comics, Warner Brothers, or the CW. No infringement is intended. The music heard is by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com.
What happens next week?
I don't know. I'm watching the trailer right now.
If you're not watching something, scroll down to the bottom of the notes.
Is that Grodd?
No, it's Shaggy Man.
I'm going to say it. I think that the villains for a lot of these DC comics are just way over the top. I don't know. Shaggy Man. I don't know, does Marvel have such ridiculous villains as well?
Of course they do. Of course they do.
Shaggy Man, Shaggy Man.
Swamp Thing, you are amazing. You make everything swampy.
It's like trying to choose your favorite child. You don't like any of them.